Greetings all and welcome to another Wu-Sabat Outformation class UK, and this one is the Mother Circle of Existence revision and conclusion class before we get into the Lotus of Life part 1 next week. My name is Nabab Kakni Hess. I'm a student teacher of the Master Teacher and a member of the Sabian's Student Teachers Association, bringing you today's session. So welcome everybody. So I think as has already been, and thank you for the facilitators, Harat M. Habab, Jadefre Hatap, and Manthu Ba'a Gibab. So if you haven't updated your Zoom to the latest version, I would invite you to do so. You don't have to, but invite you to do so just so you get the best experience on some of the things that we are doing for today. Okay, so let's move forward. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so we're going to attempt to run a poll just so that you can confirm that you can hear me okay. So I'm just going to run that poll right now. Hopefully technically it's working for everybody. So can you confirm that you can hear me clearly over the Om chant in the background? So applying the affirmative or the negative, you may need to swipe left or right on your device in order for this poll to appear. You should say sound, and you just need to confirm yes or no that you can hear me correctly. Or clearly, I should say, rather than correctly. Okay, so can you hear me clearly over the Om chant in the background? Okay, if you cannot or you've got problems, then put some comments in the chat, and then the facilitators will try to assist you as best as they can. Okay, so next poll I'm going to launch is the visuals. So in a similar vein, can you confirm that you can see the title screen or the presentation screen? Again, just confirm in yes or no that you can see the screen okay. Yeah, so can you see the screen clearly? Again, you may need to swipe left or right on your device to confirm that you can, yes or no. Okay, so it seems for those who have voted that they can, so I'll end that and we'll keep it moving. So what we're going to do now is just to say start the class with a positive affirmation from the Sabian culture. As I should have explained at the start, we are the United Sabians worldwide. That's what we come out of. And our culture is called Wu-Sabat, and our language is called Misbatia or Sabaic, would be the translation in English. So this is a positive affirmation, helps us to connect with our ancestors, and we want a positive experience for our class today. So it's called Partak Yod, the affirmation. So I'm going to say it in the Sabaic language and then translate into English for everybody's full and proper understanding. Abdoi Kale Namazurat Wu Fakur Ame Kasam Un Empa Paut Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk Empa Paut Wu Kale Ashuk Kawun Jawef Nea Anuki Kasam Un Empa Paut Wu Pa Paut Kawun Kasam Un Em Nea Anuki Wahu Ame Pa Paut Wu Pa Paut Kawun Wahu Ame Nea Nakuk Kadur Najo Ame Kasam Un Empa Paut Wu Habub Ame Mushachas Un Nakuk Kadur Kawan Kaleh Pafef Nakuk Kayur Jawef Pa Paut Ameh Wase, Ameh Tayarni, Kawun, Lakei, Bakoi, Jawef, Pa, Pa'ut, Anuki Abed Bin Afashni, Pa, Pa'ut, Kawun, Anuki, Pa, Pa'ut, Kadur, Nakuk, Kadur, Pa, Pa'ut, Amul, Nakuk, Amul. So we said or started by saying begin all prayers and thinking as a part of the all expanding. And then we said I am in the divine love of the all expanding and all divine love is in me. I am a part of the all expanding and the all expanding is a part of me. I am one as the all expanding and the all expanding is one as me. I can succeed as a part of the all expanding and fail as an individual person. I can be all that I want in the all expanding as long as my want is to stay in the all expanding. I am never by myself. The all expanding is I am. The all expanding can, I can. The all expanding does, I do. So that was, as I say, a positive affirmation known as Partak Yud for us to start the class in a positive and cultural way, an aspect of positive thinking. So if you've not joined us on the Zoom platform before, a very quick induction to how we use the platform. So this is a question and answer class and session, just happens to be focused on a particular topic, but it's designed to be interactive. So if you don't understand something, then do not sit there in ignorance, ask questions, and we'll show you how to do that. So you have a panel, if you have coming on a device using the internet, and if you need to adjust your audio settings for any reason, then you can do so using this option here on the left. We use a chat for any kind of feedback that's not questions. So it could be feedback, messages, etc. Not questions. Select everyone as the default distribution option. If you've got an older version of Zoom, it might look a bit different. But select everyone, that way everybody can see what you're saying, and use the chat to give feedback. So it can be anything, it can be positive, negative, could be, as I say, people commenting on answers given, whatever the case may be. So anything that's not a question, put that in the chat area. Now, if you do have a question, there's two ways in which to do that. So the first one is to raise your hand, and that will enable you to come live and speak to me as a student teacher for today directly. And so simply raise your hand, and then at the right appropriate time, the facilitator will call your name, and then you'll be asked to unmute yourself. So you should see this message appear on the screen. You need to unmute yourself, and then you'll be able to speak and ask your question. If you've dialed in, then the options are slightly different. So it'd be *9 to raise your hand, and then when prompted, *6 to unmute yourself, and then *6 to mute yourself back again. So in both options, we ask you, once you're unmuted, you've got the option or ability to unmute yourself at will. So just ask you to stay muted as to not disturb the rest of the class with any kind of background noise. Now, if you don't want to come in live and ask your question directly, then you can place a written question by pressing the Q&A button, and then at the, let's say, appropriate time or whatever, the facilitator will ask that question on your behalf. Obviously, if the question is not answered clearly, then you need to give feedback either by the same medium, or you're certainly welcome to come on live and clarify the question that you may be answering if it's not clear or understood by myself. Yeah, so feel free to use that medium for written questions which will be asked on your behalf. Right, so polling, questions and recap quizzes. I think, as I said in the last class, we hadn't done them for a while. There were some technical issues. I think we've overcome them. So we're back doing that again today. So we've got, we'll be starting with that recap quiz or class, which I'll go through a bit later. It's designed for your benefit and for also our benefit, so that when we are teaching, we know that actually people are understanding what we're communicating. I mean, of course, it's a form of, could be considered a form of entertainment or edutainment in one sense or cases. But the issue is with this doctrine called Wu-Sabat, it's important that we start thinking in it, able to express ourselves in it as we get back into the knowledge of who we are once again and start to express ourselves. And part of that is being able to think in this doctrine. So it's not a case of me sitting here for whatever the time is, 3-4 hours, and just talking. You're going to learn more by asking questions and by interacting. So these questions or quizzes are designed to test your knowledge or retention of the information, and they will range in scale from easy to hard. If you've not encountered them before or you weren't here for the previous parts, then simply just use your best guess. The most important thing is that you participate, etc., and not feel any kind of embarrassment. They're anonymous, so we're not keeping score at this end. It's more for your learning and understanding. And when we go through the answers together, then obviously that's also whether you've answered it correctly or not correctly, it's an opportunity for you to learn by way of us giving the answers to those questions. So this will become a regular feature of the classes, because what's happening is maybe for years we're kicking out knowledge and information, but the issue is us as a tribe or us as a people, are we retaining it, that we could then express it to somebody else in each one teach one fashion, or whatever the case may be. And also when you look in a lot of the actual facts books, certainly the early versions of those actual facts, in the back they've got questions which are basically recapping what is in the book itself. So that's designed because, remember, you're dealing with Dr. Malachi Z York, or Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, who is a master teacher, and that word teacher is what we're talking about here. We are students, and therefore we should be mastering what is being expressed by the being that our ancestors sent to us to raise, obviously, us from, or transform us from mortals back into deities again. So polling, quizzes or questions, the new technology allows us obviously to expand how we teach in weird and wonderful ways. And so polling questions is a part of it, as I say, when we're sometimes, as I say, getting back into our culture, and black people don't like to feel, whoever else, you understand, who's aligned with our culture, but don't like to feel any kind of embarrassment. I'm sort of saying to you, we'll put that to one side and just express yourself. Just participate. If you get it wrong, it's not a big deal. Do you understand? So we're not keeping score. It's just part of the interactive way in which we're looking to teach now. Okay, so again, I suppose a quick introduction based on what we've got to cover today. Previous classes that we've done on our YouTube channel, check that out. All Eyes on Egypt, Midlands and the North. We may go into these stuff in a lot more detail than I'm going to cover today, just because we've got a lot to cover and I need to get to a certain point. So depending, we may get there, we may not. Depends how the questions go today. Not a big deal. But importantly, though, and not to minimize that, you understand, obviously, who is the master teacher? So the doctrine that we're teaching today, these classes are based on a doctrine called Wu-Sabat, what we would classify as the spiritual science of the Negroid, or Nagaru, or black people, as the term is used, Africans, understood? Because one of the issues is that when you look at the ancient Egyptian culture, for example, and the building of pyramids, Tekenu obelisks, and various different monuments that we've built, but it hasn't necessarily been attributed to us as the master builders of that, not only the architecture, but the culture that sat behind it, and the spiritual doctrine, or what some may say religion, that sat behind it. Because the question is, well, okay, they were building all these wonderful monuments and aligning them with various different star constellations, but what's their religion? Because the people who are there at the moment are followers of Mohammedanism. They're Muslims, understood? So what is the religion of all these mummies that they're finding, you understand, of various famous people, pharaohs, famous Sacred Femi-nine, etc., etc. rituals and symbols, etc. What was their religion? Yeah, so this is the sort of key question, really. Now, if we knew our culture, then we would know that our story has to be renewed every 24,000 years, which is similar to the circumference of the planet, which is around 24,892 miles in circumference. It expands and contracts. And one of the things we would know, not only our story has to be renewed, but you would also understand that the different races on the planet have their own spiritual science. It enables them to come together, to unify mentally, and then that allows them that physical unity to then follow thereafter, which is why maybe it is perceived, at least, that some races on this planet are much more successful than others. One of the reasons for that is pretty much, even if you look at certain sectism that exists in many different religions today, certain races are of the same religion and of a similar culture enough that basically they would distinguish themselves from other races based on that culture. You understand? And even now today, you get confusion because people are now trying to introduce the religion, for example, like Islam, and they treat it like it's a race. Muslim is not a race. Jew is not a race. It is a religion. That's why you can have various different races and even various different nationalities who participate or consider themselves to be part of that religion. Understand? And a lot of time the confusion comes in because people are mixing up those words. So the point being made is that each of the races has their own religion and has their own teachers which are sent to them to teach them a doctrine that not only connects them with the natural environment based on their nature, based on their natural design, but also importantly allows them to connect to their ancestors, who many are interpreting as gods, deities, so on and so forth. Understood? So when we talk about a teacher being sent to us and giving us our spiritual science, because we, let's be honest, we're in a dead state. Most 400 or so years ago, when our genes were forcibly and violently intercepted through the so-called slave trade, that last interception, particularly in our genes, created a hybrid of Caucasian or Mukasu genes into the Negroid genes and created a black person called the Negro. You understand? And so that was a black person that looked black, but actually thought white or thought like a Caucasian. You understand? And so therefore, we were far away from our natural design according to natural nature. And obviously the feminine forces of natural nature always come back around to realign us or correct us or bring us back to where we're supposed to be. So each different races has their own teachers, which brings a culture to them, which connects us all in with who we are according to our natural nature and connects us with natural nature. And according to your DNA and your genetics, because you've been programmed as being children of your ancestors, really you can't choose your religion. Yeah, you can't really choose your culture, because your culture, is connected to your ancestors and the way in which you were created, because you're utilizing their DNA. Well, within that DNA and within that structure, and what optimizes you, the food that you like, obviously, you are what you eat. What optimizes your physical structure, what optimizes you etherically or from an energy point of view to connect spiritually, you understand, is all there by design. And because you have different ranges of melanin dominance within the human race, well, that determines the level of vibration that an individual, as part of a race, can reach. Obviously, black being the highest, having is a tone, having the combination of all colors, and then out of that, obviously you have the three primary colors, blue, red, and yellow, and they are obviously of different vibrational rates, understood. And so the blacker the person is, the more energy is contained. Obviously, that energy then starts to tail off as that color is lost until you get to white or transparent, which will be low level of vibration. Do you understand? Or the opposites of that would be life, you understand, versus death. You understand? So death doesn't mean non-existent. It can also mean low energy. Understood? As we see, for example, when you look at the seasons, you know, summer, which is, I suppose, the most energetic point, considered to be, versus winter, where it's still low level. And obviously, certain life forms, you see certain trees which shed their leaves, for example, they may appear dead, but obviously as the season changes, they resurrect, don't they? And then obviously their leaves come back again, so on and so forth. So you can see how death can mean low energy. The point is, not to get too confused, is that you're connected to your ancestors, and your religion is going to help you to do that, because whatever your ancestors are, as you being their children, at a certain point of your growth, you're going to grow into what they are. And so your religion, so to speak, is designed, or your culture is all supposed to be designed to help you to achieve that ascension journey. Hence why you get a specific teacher sent to teach your race very specific things. And does that mean that other races can't learn from it? Of course not. But some teachers, as we've expressed before, are not for the whole race, they're for their own people. Like Mahatma Gandhi, as we've said on this class before, was considered to be a known racist because he was for his people, the Mudravadu or the Dravidians, the Indians. You understand? He was for his own people. So, but he was racist to blacks. So whilst I may pay attention to what he has to say, I can't embrace him fully if he had that kind of wrong racism mindset. I ain't got a problem with right racism, which is the racial pride, and promoting your own race, etc., so on and so forth. No problem. But wrong racism, which is the suppression of another race to further your own race, obviously we ain't supporting that. So therefore, I can't embrace everything he had to say, because his mindset at a certain point would be anti-black. Yeah, because of the disease of racism, or wrong racism, I should say, that he expressed or suffered from. Understood? So in that regard, yes, everybody can learn from each other, but like, if animals eat a certain type of food, which is optimum for them, in a similar way, there's certain types of food which are optimum for us, and certain types of knowledge which are obviously optimized for us, and certain knowledge which is designed and tailored for us. Hence why one is taught to embrace it. Understood? And that's supposed to be the natural order of things. Understood? So you can't choose your religion. The issue is that in the multiple choices that he gave to us, yes, Wu-Sabat wasn't one of those choices. Understand? Yeah. So therefore, he wasn't interested in our progression. He was interested in keeping us subservient in order for it to us to be a battery to support their system, their intentions, their needs, their progression at the cost of our death and our regression. Understand? And that came in a form of sort of really what we articulate in this doctrine as a spell, because, as I say, the religions that we have today are already forms of idol worship, IDLE, not IDOL, IDLE. So meaning that we're putting our energy into these doctrines, but they're not yielding any results for that simple reason. Why no help from above is one of the Master Secrets questions, is because we were never dialing the right phone number. You understand? These religions really, or monotheistic religions, make us subservient to other races. And this is the problem. This is the technology that comes in, because obviously people are using words like God, Most High, the Almighty, and these various different terms, never really analyzing what sits behind them. Understood? And so we cried out really as a people for some assistance and for some help. And certainly in this day and time, by way of the works, you would have to judge it by, not necessarily just by the title, but the works. That one who claimed to have that information with the answers to the questions that we were seeking, in some basic questions. Who are we? What's our purpose? Where did we come from? Do you understand these kind of things? How did all this creation come into existence, etc., etc.? How did the sun come around? All these questions that we had, even questions that we didn't even know we had. In fact, we had to be taught how to question again. Yeah, because we were sitting in the churches dumbfounded, listening, but wasn't really asking any questions. So therefore, really, we're not expressing any kind of intelligence or understanding against what's being expressed. We're just accepting what's being taught to us, whether it made sense or not, through words like belief, acceptance of ignorance, of things that you don't know, or faith, you understand, or blind faith in a sense, where we're putting our energy into things that we haven't necessarily confirmed. Understood? So it was necessary, as I say, for a teacher for us in this day and time to teach us what we needed to know, and bring back or restore this science of Wu-Sabat, the science of the Kadem Mukamatu, or the ancient Egyptians, you understand, going all the way back to the very first people, which is the Sands people in South Africa. We all descend out of the Sands people out of South Africa. Three predominant root races, obviously, now that remain on Earth today. Obviously, ourselves as the Nagar-Nadu or Negroids. You've got the Mongoloids, and then you've got the Caucasoids, understood, and then various different sub-races that we see in between that as a result of the mixing between these three dominant races. Maybe in a future class we get into that in a lot more detail. But physical ethers is what we describe as the different species even within our own race. So in the Nagar-Nadu or the Negroid race, there are 9 physical ethers. And so obviously you see the Sands people who are, so it's maybe gold or caramel in color, very tight curls denoting strong genes. If you look at somebody like in West Africa or maybe in the Congo, very dark-skinned individuals, almost blue-black. So within that we have 9 different hues, or human, where they get the word human, H-U-E, hue. And within that, obviously, you've got various different hues because there's various species within that, irrespective of any mixing with people with recessive genes or whatever. Within our own race, we have these hues of color, which are referred to as physical ether. So different to ether as a form of gas, but physical ether. So manifestation of us from that gaseous state, being born into this environment in terms of natural design, resulted in, as I say, 9 different physical ethers, collectively known as the Nagar-Nadu or Negroid race, or upgraded terminology would be planetary nation is another word for race, and we would be considered the all nation. Yes, because obviously all races come from us, so we are the manifestation of Pa'ut insofar as from a racial perspective, because we gave birth to all other races. Yeah, so we're also known as the all race, or in that regard, or the all nation, in that regard. So planetary nation is another word for race, within Wu-Sabat. So the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z York Okran, also known this day and time as Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, was born in Takoradi, Ghana, June 26, 1945, so his birthday coming up very soon, which also happens to be in our calendar, our new year, as time is reset. And he was born to a Sacred Femi-nine, or Other, known as Mary Abba Akran York. Fatima Maryam was also how she was known, or Fatima for short. So very important. Obviously been talking about Other, circle of existence. So we are always been and have been a matriarchal society. Obviously the monotheistic religions coming out of ancient Sumer, The Anunnaki really taught them patriarchy, you understand, or male dominance, hence why in the books of the Bible, following on to the Quran, Torah, etc., they refer to their God as a he, understood? So the patriarchal side of things, or the switch, came in with those groups of extraterrestrials who are responsible really for those monotheistic religions, along with some others as well. So very different to what was taking place in the very origin of human life here on this planet, Patanun, or Earth, and what was taking place in Afafrayeka, or Africa. Yes, because we were, I say, matriarchal because it aligns with Mother Nature. Understood? Yes. Female first, and obviously from a gender perspective, all of the genders come out of female, both obviously male and neutral genders. The technical terms we would say masnoid would be male, and then we've got bathanoid for neutral gender, obviously, and then you've got femnoid, or whatever the term is, for female. Understand? Now all of those come out of the female gender. So the neutral and male all come out of the female gender. When it comes to gender types, now obviously when we step into the esoteric, etheric world, there's no more gender discussion. Do you understand? So because we are energy, even though clearly there must be some characteristics in the design, because gender came out of that energy state. Yeah, so there are some characteristics that result in gender. Part of that is obviously related to polarity, but when we step out of the physical, there's no more gender discussion. Understand? And so part of what we will be looking at in the next part of this class, Lotus of Life Part 1, and the subsequent parts, will be to explore the differences between female and male. So it's important that we understand that, because even though they are equal, like the circle and the square, circle 360 degrees, square also is 360 degrees, so equal but different. And us understanding those differences and having quality knowledge of who we are and also our natural design means that when we are communicating with each other, we have a better, or we may check ourselves at least to get a better understanding, so we don't get into unnecessary arguments with each other, because we're not understanding that we perceive the world differently through those eyes, obviously based on our genetic characteristics. So we are matriarchal in nature as a people. Yeah, that is our natural tribal design. So this is Mary Abbott of Dr.York in her attire as clan mother. Obviously, she transitioned and passed that role on to her daughter through the mitochondrial DNA. She was then appointed as the clan mother for this day and time. Her daughter, Mugdaltat Mukpataret Atum Haye. So we're seeing that culture now being re-established in this day and time. So his father, or sacred masculine, so the M Adir, or F ether. And so we've got M other, and then F Adir, or F ether. Yes, in that regard, Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, born 1922, you see on the screen, unfortunately assassinated in 1970. Really, I say, gives a link really to the royal lineage, tying back into the Sayyid Muhammad al-Mahdi, Ahmed al-Mahdi of the Sudan, born 1845, known as the Mahdi, which translates as the guide, and a very important descendant of us as the Kadem Mukmatu, or ancient Egyptians, who was really a master spiritualist. So had mastered the sort of esoteric side, and certainly expressed it to good effect for the protection of our race really in Afafrayeka or Africans, and drove the British and the Turks out of Africa in a certain series of campaigns. So yes, that was his obviously great grandfather, so a great lineage in that regard. And in actuality, he had two Ghanaian wives as well, and so the Ghanaian link comes from that side of the family as well, understood, and also ties into, as I say, through Sudan back to the ancient Egyptians of Napata and Meroe. Some say Meroe. So pre-dynastic ancient Egypt. And now, as I say, they like to create a lot of confusion between pre-dynastic and dynastic ancient Egyptians. When they say dynastic, you're really talking about a mixture between two cultures, Anunnaki culture, really from Sumer, all the way from Iraq, and then coming back, having left Africa, and then resided in that area, then interacted with a certain group of extraterrestrials, and then brought a new culture back into Africa. But before they were allowed back in, they were checked first to be, I suppose, arguably re-civilized again, and there was a merging of two cultures, so Anunnaki culture and ancient Egyptian culture, or Natharu culture, merging together, which gave birth to these dynastic periods. You understand? But the essence or the truth or the actual factual part of it is going back to pre-dynastic. That's where it's, I suppose, in its purity, because our genes were less tampered with at that point. Understood? So, and you can tell the difference between the deities, or the depiction of the deities, the anthropomorphical depiction of the deities, yes, how they're shown, symbolism of them is shown. So the one with masks, that is Anunnaki Natharu mix. The ones without masks, that's pre-dynastic. Understood? So that's a purer, arguably, version of us, pure version of our culture, without all of these additions. Now, all of it's relatively useful for us to understand our journey, but as you know, as ontologists, we keep stepping back to get to the pure essence, obviously, of who we are. And that takes us back, as I say, to the Sands people of South Africa, back then into the waters of this planet, and then obviously out off planet, out into the stars, as an extraterrestrial doctrine and an extraterrestrial people. Hence why we have hair, i.e. curls in the center of our crown on top of our head, and others have fur on the top of their head, which is a difference, extraterrestrial trait, also known as nine ether in the physical sense. So, I say those are the parents, and then you've got the physical being. This is him at age 25, us in the religious degrees. I was Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi at age 25, and stating that he had been housed by a being by the name of El Khadir. And that was really designed as part of our culture, because this term Amun Nabab Rei Akhtar, the Hindus call it an avatar in their language, in English, and then the Muslims refer to it as an Ilam Mutajasid. Yeah, so that's a physical vessel or being that allows our ancestors to in-house that being in order to speak to or communicate stuff that we need to know. It's very different to the Caucasian science, I suppose, of archaeology and paleontology. So this is digging things up out of the ground in order to find out what has taken place in the past. It has its place. However, we're talking in this context of outformational presence, obviously, where information is coming from outside of the planet Earth to inform and almost transform and reform us from what we have become back into who we are supposed to be according to natural design. So there's not a need for us to uncover things that our ancestors have previously buried, because it's coming from outside in the sense, in and beyond the stars. Understood? And so this is coming from the above, so to speak, down into this world. And the proof of whether this is true or whether it's madness or not, obviously is in the content that's been produced. Understood? So since 1962, 63, unofficially 1970 officially, you had a plethora of information explaining or giving you the ability to verify, you understand, without necessarily having to use the Mukasu or white man's information, so to speak, to verify who you are. It's coming from one of your own in order to teach you who you are, and obviously to help us in order to remove the spell. So religions and even doctrines, if you didn't know, are designed, and they are designed and at times will be reformed and tailored for the people or our race at this particular point in time, because the genes tumble forward. Obviously, we're influenced by our environment, and we're influenced by things that have happened to us within that environment. So yes, we are the same as our ancient Egyptian ancestors, but then again, we're not the same. So we are them, obviously, from a roots perspective, but obviously where we are now in terms of the leaves on the tree, we're different in terms of our mindset. So in order to bring us back to who we are, a doctrine needs to be tailored. And in this case, the medicine of Wu-Sabat needed to be tailored to make it palatable for our people to want to ingest it. You understand? Because many don't want to take the bitter herb. Understood? Yeah, we want it sweetened. And so the sweetened version of the facts or the truth at the time when they brought Wu-Sabat or Nwapu to us at that particular time, we wasn't ready for it. You understand? We wanted to worship, we wanted religion. Yes, we wanted to be Muslims, Christians, we wanted something to worship, which would give us an out of taking real responsibility for the environment and obviously the solutions for our people. Yeah, and so that combination of Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi and the internal being the real intelligence al-Khadir, with the as the Ifrit being giving us that next level of information, they sweetened it, as I say, by giving it to us in that form. So medicine was in the form of religion. So that was for the first 30 years. Each of these elders are given symbolically an hour to convey what they need to convey to us as human beings. And as I say, for the first 30 years, to really give us this facts and religion hybrid, until we were ready then to remove the spell. So part of the solution or part of the medicine had the poison in it. So that which had poisoned us, i.e. placed us under the spell and had us subservient to other races, in the medicine was part of the poison. You understand? So they were clever enough to devise this doctrine, at least for the first 30 years, as I say, which was designed really to remove the spell from us. And so when the spell ended, when the nines aligned, 9th September 1999, we were now ready to adopt or accept now our true culture, hence the coming in at the end of the 6,000-year cycle of the ancient Egyptian order. Understood? So that was the real university to teach us about the universe, on into the dual verse, on into the triverse, multiverse. Obviously, when you say everything or you combine it all, you say omniverse. Understood? So this combination was necessary to devise, as I say, the information necessary to remove this spell from ourselves and remove us from this subservience, at least mental subservience, so we could stand on our own 2 feet again. The mummy would be reawakened mentally. Yeah, so Wu-Sabat always visits the minds of its posterity, so the minds of the descendants first. Understood? So the mind had to be right. Yeah, mind had to be right. We understand really what mind is. We're talking about a connection really to the mental. Understood? So real thinking, once again. So when they talk about us being trapped, let's draw something on the screen here, for everybody, just to make it a bit clear. So they would say that we will be, so that we'll be trapped in what? Persons, places, and things. Yeah, so three, excuse my writing here, but persons, place, and things. Yeah, 3 points you see on the circle. So if you analyze, you can't think of anything outside of person, place, and things. So we're trapped in nouns. Yeah, we can't think outside of that. You can take any subject, any word, anything, it's going to fall into these 3 categories. Understood? So we're trapped in the English language, essentially. And so we live in a society of multiple choices where everything's already really, even though we think we're choosing, we're not really. Because, as I say, as it was expressed to us, you go to a sports shop, you see a row of trainers or whatever, I don't know, Nike Air Force Ones or whatever the case may be. They could be of different colors, different designs or whatever. And you think by picking one of those trainers that that's you making a real decision. Somebody 2-3 years ago already decided what that range of trainers was going to look like. So we're picking out of multiple choices. So we're in somebody else's mindset, picking choices. We're not doing any real thinking again. And that's because we're locked inside, as I say, this triad principle, at least, of person, place, and things, or nouns in English. Yeah, but when you have a triad, there's always a 4th point. You see that point in the center there? Yeah, and so, oops, let's get rid of that point in the center there. So that point there, yeah, where we're really starting to add, yeah, get into real thinking again, is the mind. Yeah, so that 4th point, yeah, that pulsing out of that tetrahedron shape there is where we're getting back into the mind. So this is where this being, Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, was coming in now and saying, hey, outformation, and then you blow your mind. What, outformation? How can you... But the white man didn't teach us about outformation. He only taught us about information. We didn't see that there was an opposite to that, of that word, or even understand or overstanding, or even a next understanding within the same language. So this is pointing you to the fact that the solution of Wu-Sabat being articulated by the master teacher, Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, is pushing the Nagaru to get back into real thinking again. Understood? Try and force her and him outside of the Mukasu mind. Yeah, the Mukasu thinking that had locked us. Yeah, because certain extraterrestrials created religion for their races to control them. And we had fallen now under, obviously, the same spell that was designed to control them. And so therefore, we were, as we expressed earlier in the class, a person who looked black, but thought other than black. We thought like them and still even think like them, and we're trapped within their language. So of course we would have to think like them because we don't have any other options to express ourselves. Trapped in English, hence why what? You were given a new culture, a new language, etc., to express yourselves. Yeah, and that expression is really part of what our soul really is, the emotional expression or emotional part of us that links us to from the mind to the mental. So you see, the spell was designed to break that. Ultimately, it will not be broken until we are fully able to express ourselves in the language of the ancient Egyptians, or language of our ancestors, when they was not under the control of another race. They were standing on their own 2 feet. Understood? So this is what was necessary in this day and time, and why you were sent, as I say, a teacher, and let's get it clear, a teacher, not a messiah, or words of that nature which have various connotations given by religion. You were sent a teacher in order to teach you what you needed to know, to realign yourself once again with the supreme mother, which is natural nature. Understood? Yeah, the feminine icon, yeah, which is a term just say we covered in previous classes, but we'll explore more, say, when we do the Lotus of Life series of classes. So a new combination, once religion was broken, in the first 30 years, a new combination was necessary now to teach us about our real culture, leading to what we call in actual facts, master secrets and parteract. So the guidance for us, as I say, to establish a culture amongst ourselves where we would really understand the who, what, where, why, and how we should be doing things and the way we interact with each other. You understand? So, and truly really understanding our nature. So the reason why you don't, which would establish, more importantly, peaceful liberty amongst each other. So as we've said before, the reason why you don't sleep with somebody's wife or whatever, because human beings will kill each other under the doctrine of mind. Yeah, so we have rules in place amongst each other for peaceful liberty or living. Understood? Yeah, and so we would understand why those rules would be in place, not just there's some commandments in religion where actually you don't understand how those commandments arose, why they're there, and then there's supposed to be a contradiction. They say thou shalt not kill, but the Israelites went out killing people, commanded by God to do so. So then you get an interesting contradiction as a part of that. So a new combination was necessary, as I say, to deal with the spell of Leviathan, as it's called in the Bible, Kingu, as it's called in ancient Sumer, and then in ancient Egypt it was referred to the spell of a man. So different aspects, as I say, of the spell, which causes us to have difficulty accepting leadership in our own skin color. Understood? And various other aspects to it as well. So a new combination was necessary. This was Malachi Z, Dr.York, Okran, and then the being with him was known as Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn. It's one of those incarnated masters to teach us really about this science of Wu-Sabat, and which would be then the real university where you would go and learn about the universe. Understood? So again, a short introduction to what we're dealing with, of who we are, and now we're going to get into the class today. So any questions before I get to where we were?
Yes, we do have a question, but the question is not, it's a little bit outside of the subject matter, but it could be connected. I'll read out the question. It's from Mr. Williams, and it says, I'm in the process of acquiring a maroon ID card and nativity paper. The information that the maroons are giving out, can you clarify if it is the same as what you are giving out pertaining to our sovereign divinity?
I can't answer that question because I haven't seen what you're looking at. So more so that would be a piece of work for you to do, to compare the two things together and see if they're of a similar origin. Now, when you come to sort of looking back at ancestry and sovereignty, which is a journey, as I say, that United Sabians Worldwide is also undertaking. Obviously, the Master Teacher being incarcerated at the moment has hindered a little bit of that, one might arguably say. However, it would really be exploring that route is more to do with, is that part of your own ancestry? So if you're a descendant of the Maroons, for example, in Jamaica, and that's following your lineage or line through your 30 ancestors, so your 4 generational ancestors, which makes up a part of you, then that's something, maybe relevant to explore. But that might not be a way to explore that for everybody, but you might have a direct connection through your great-grandmother, so on and so forth, to explore that particular route. One of the things that the Maroons have, which clearly establishes sovereignty, is that they're sitting on their own land. You understand? Really, none of the other organizations, apart from what the Master Teacher was establishing, I'm talking about the new cycle organizations, really had their own land. You understand? Which is what, when you see on the screen here, is an important aspect of sovereignty, because what happens is when you try to establish a culture and then you need to establish rules that really keep that culture intact, because human beings, you know, our nature is maybe not necessarily always to comply with things. So you have to have rules. Yeah, if you think about it, when a country has established itself on a particular land, there's really no outside of the rules of that country if you're a citizen of that country. Do you understand? So you can't really step outside of the rules, those laws or regulations of that country. If you sign on to it as a citizen, they apply to everybody within the borders of that country. So in order to establish sovereignty doesn't require you to have land. It's a case of you declaring to the world that I am sovereign, this is who I am, so on and so forth. But in terms of practical application of the laws that would then relate to being a national of that particular tribe, etc., in order to you to be binded in, so to speak, then you need land to establish a level of rulership and compliance with rules for sort of peaceful living. Do you understand? So that's something for you to explore. I can't confirm whether or not it aligns with Wu-Sabat in the principle of the doctrine here, because unfortunately I'm ignorant to those details. So if you want to email to them or share, then I may be able to help out with the answer. The best person to answer the question is yourself. Any other questions?
Right. Another question's popped up, and it's from an anonymous attendee. And it's, I'll just read it out. Why do people still say, "Oh God," or "Jesus Christ" in exclamation? What should they say, if anything similar?
Well, so I can't we say why is because I suppose that's what's been taught within the expressions within the language. Now, I suppose the style of it is one thing. I mean, you could say just don't say it, innit? I think that's just don't say it as a form of expression. And then about replacing it, I mean, usually when people are saying that, "Oh God," something negative's happened. You understand? Oh God, or you know what I mean, for Christ's sake, or whatever the case may be. It's usually when something adverse or negative has happened. I suppose if you wanted to switch that, then whatever that expression is, you're going to keep it maybe something positive. Now, if I suppose you were going to replace it, then, you know, and give power to something to turn a negative positive, then maybe you'd want to call upon one of your ancestors or your relative in that regard as a form of protection for that situation. So if you were thinking about, okay, what could I say positive to replace the negative or to protect me from that negative incident, from that type of expression, then you may call upon one of your own ancestors. Now, the eldest female is, when you're establishing that ancestral connection, the eldest female in your ancestral line, so in your 30, your great-great-grandmother, is the one that you would call on first, because that being would establish the protection against your 4 generational ancestors. You understand? So you would connect with that one first, and then she establishes, as I say, the protection. So arguably, if you're going to give it some power, then you call upon her name, because she's a protective force once you've established that, and then that then connects you to your higher ancestors, who, in this instance, in Wu-Sabat, the Egyptians referred to as the Natharu, in a sound which translates to overseers. So if you were, as I say, replacing those terms, then realistically, probably one of your ancestors, your own 30, call upon one of them to turn a negative into a positive, or to activate some form of protection. Understand? Because the importance of those 4 generational ancestors is that you've established that they are real. The fact that you've got them, even if I've never seen your mother and father, when you see you as a human being, you are the result of male and female coming together. Understood? And so, okay, we've established you've got parents, and then they had parents, and they had parents. That's an actual fact. It can't be refuted. According to the rules in nature, that's how it's been established. So therefore, in order to connect to beings who are older than that, you use your 4 generational ancestors, who are not living, in a sense. So they're energy beings or elemental beings at that point. So you're establishing a connection with them to establish a connection with anybody else who has lived further than that. Understood? And so that may be one way to replace, yes, what you are calling upon if you feel that's needed in that particular situation. Once you're establishing that, then obviously you're calling upon other deities from our culture who remember how they are taught and how we are to understand them. Yes, they are beings who lived and we have a blood link to them, but also they are principles to help us to understand greater, or to get a greater understanding of who you are. You understand? So we learn about the Amuns, Asars, and these different types of elemental beings or deities. As the way they've been given to us, they are principles in certain instances as well for us to understand, as I say, different aspects of who we are and how we connect to this whole part of Pa'ut within existence. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Mr. Williams has said, well, he's just saying thanks for the answer. I'm comparing right now. I'm yet to explore my ex-Mexican, also known as Jamaican connection, since Dad was born in Manchester, Paris, and Mum in St. Thomas. So he's saying thanks for that, and there's no more questions.
Okay, I respect you. Okay, so yes, that's important. So you might see, for example, let me just go through some of this. Here we go. Yeah, that's important because obviously we're learning Wu-Sabat, and then, some people might, and we'll learn certain rituals, for example, and obviously they're given to us in a way where it works for the whole of us, do you understand? But some people may have cultural variations based upon their genetic lineage that also may be relevant to them, do you understand? Because their ancestry kicks in at certain points. So as the brother mentioned, the Maroons, they have certain things there. So certain rituals might work for him in that culture because he has a direct connection to it, but they might not work for somebody else who doesn't have a connection to that culture. So Wu-Sabat is taking you back to the very origin of things and giving you, under the guidance of the master teacher, so that it works for the whole. Understood? And so that's why it wouldn't have all of these different cultural variations in it, because really you don't know who's who. You understand? And because our genes have been mixed and scrambled and so on and so forth. You understand? So in that regard, that's why it's kept quite general in terms of esoteric information, dietary information, things of that nature are kept very general. You understand? So sometimes as a safety protection, it may say, don't do this or don't do that, because if that may affect one individual more than it does somebody else. Understood? So understand it in that regard. Hence why it's called guidance. You understand? Or Pa'ut is one of the things that we live by, and it's called guidance. Yeah. So it works for the best of the whole of us. But sometimes it may not be it may not always be pertinent or the optimum for an individual. And you're gonna have to do that your own research to find out what works best in your regard. And so the best person to know about you is you. Understood? So you're using the doctrine as almost as a mirror to apply it to yourself in the best instance first. Hence why the term "know thyself" really means, it's not a particular term that really just means learn about your sort of history or your story. In that regard, it's knowing how your body works. Understood? Because this is an insight when you really understand who we are into what a universe is, what a multiverse is, understand what the omniverse is, so on and so forth, by studying that which is in close proximity to your perception, which is you. Understood? So what we're going to do now is get into this recap quiz for M Other Circle of Existence. As I say, got 28 questions based on the 5 previous parts of this subject. If you haven't seen those parts, or all of them, or none of them, whatever the case may be, don't run away. Yeah, don't run away. Best guess in the situation, and then we'll go through the answers together, and then we'll just draw a little bit of conclusion from some of the aspects that we wasn't able to get through even in the 5 parts of this class to close out. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch. So for those on Zoom, I'm going to launch the poll for this quiz. So I'm going to go through the questions one by one as well, but you don't have to stick to. You can work through at your own pace, and then we'll go through the answers together. I'm going to go through it on the screen just for people who are on Facebook Live, for example, or for whatever reason can't access what you're seeing on the screen once I launch the poll. So I'll go through it one by one. So if you want to follow me and answer the questions once I've gone through the question itself, or you want to work through your own pace, entirely up to you. Once you get to the end, submit it, and then basically enable us to see anonymously how many people have got the different answers. So who's got it right, who's got it different answers, etc. So the important thing is that you participate, you understand, because you're going to get more out of it. There are some free form questions as well. You don't need to be writing essays. Just put, for your understanding, of the question, express it in your own words in a shortish sentence. So it doesn't really require more than a couple of sentences at the most. It's a free form question. So this is getting you to think in this doctrine of Wu-Sabat. Okay, so I'm launching the quiz now. You should see that on your screen. And you can work through the questions in your own time. If I'm distracting you while you work those questions, just simply mute me out. Mute me out. Let's not give you the answers here. So simply mute me out, and then I'll just work through, as I say, for the purpose of the people who haven't got the Zoom set up the way you've got it now. Okay, once you've worked through all the questions, then, as I say, it will, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll give you, it'll submit your results, and then when I press a separate button, once you've all finished, we'll go through each of the answers together for what is the correct answer. So the first question is, so you've got these 3 different flowers on the left, and so you need to match the flower type with its native origin and location on the planet. So you've got a drop down, series of drop downs here. Select the appropriate answer to match where this flower comes from. So you need to match the 3 answers with the 3 ABC points of different flowers here. That's question number 1. So feel free when you're ready to answer that particular question. So I'll give you about 10 seconds, and then I'll move to the next one just to help people answer that. That's known as a matching question. Matching question. Okay, so moving on. So I'll go through these, but I'm going to leave you some time at the end if you want to go back and answer these questions in your own time. You don't have to work at the pace that I'm speaking. So question 2, you've got a picture here. So the word Safafat should be hieroglyphs or hieroglyphics. You've got O there, missing. In this array of Safafat or hieroglyphics, what do the 3 bowls symbolize? So you're being asked, what do these 3 bowls here at the top symbolize, based on the answers below? And so when you see single choice, that means there's one answer out of the options that is correct. Sometimes you may get multiple answers you need to click on, and if so, it will advise you to do so. It excludes any spelling, etc., that may be appear within these slides. Next question. What phonetic sound do the two reeds symbolize in the name Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn? So here is a depiction here, some symbols, Safafat, of Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, which we've gone through. I won't say what the reeds are, but what do those reeds symbolize in that name? Yes, and so the phonetic sound, yeah, what do they symbolize in that name? So you're looking for an answer in that regard. So you need to identify the reeds, and then what sound, if reeds are being used, would that make? Yeah. So next question then. In the scroll, Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, the message of Yaanuwn, what does a newfound understanding of Safafat or hieroglyphics show? So, and so here you got multiple choices. So it's asking you to select 3 answers which it applies. So us now understanding or being able to break down, at least in part, these Safafat or hieroglyphics, yeah, what does that show for the day and time that we're living in? Yeah, so 3 answers, select 3 out of the ones which you've got for as options. So next question then. Okay. Next question says, the pictures below. Now, I see that on some devices it may be a little bit difficult to see, so if you can expand and do so, some device a bit more difficult, but it says, the picture below shows 2 separate images of the Tahat or Tet, shown in yellow, that symbolizes the humanoid body. Which of the 2 images is female and why? So you're being asked for a free-form answer here, so I typing in your answer. So we can see in yellow that this symbol here is called a Tahat or Tet symbol. So we've got 2 here showing which one's the female one and why. Yeah, so that's the short answer. Just type in an answer, a brief explanation of why you think that is the case. Yeah. Okay, so next question. So next question is fill in the blank. So, and it's not case specific, so you can type in lowercase, uppercase, whatever the case would be, it doesn't matter. So it says the Lotus of Life, each vagina, so this is from the Lotus of Life, each vagina is a secret Zahar, a most beautiful work of natural nature's work of art. So this is a statement taken out of that scroll. So what is the missing word that's here? Yeah, obviously, yeah, what's the missing word? Yeah, so what does Zahar mean, basically, yeah, in order to complete this particular sentence? So question 7, again, another matching question. So this diagram, you're just being asked, okay, well, what do all of the various different pieces then symbolize? Yeah, and they're obviously labeled here. Yeah, this is an arrow, it's not part of the symbol, just an arrow pointing to what that thing was when we were showing the slides. But these elements here, yeah, what do they mean? So you've got to match and select the appropriate answer to these aspects of the graphic, yeah, or the symbol. Next question. So in Wu-Sabat, yeah, so our spiritual doctrine, it says the sperm cell is also known as the blank of blank. So again, put the answer free form, you type in what the answer is in that one, and you type in what the second word is for that one in the second box. Yeah, so the sperm cell is also known as the blank of blank. Best guess, if you don't know the answer, best guess. Here, now it says, question 9, the last 7 letters of the English alphabet are symbolic of different aspects of the sexual process. So again, this is a matching one. So you need to go through and What does T symbolize? Select the appropriate answer all the way down to Z. Now, to make the question a little bit harder, because obviously in some cases the letter would signify what the thing is or whatever, so we've changed it around to make it a bit more complicated. So select, match what T symbolizes, U, so on and so forth. Yep, so that is what you're required to do for question 9. So, question 10, yeah, tricky one, tricky question, but what does the compass and the square truly symbolize? So again, short answer, free form. What do you think it really symbolizes? Yeah, a bit difficult to see, so a bit clearer here. But yeah, this is the compass and this is the square. Yeah, so this is a compass. This is a square. So compass, you know, makes a circle, and this is known as a square, right? 90-degree angle in terms of that tool. So yeah, and we've given it some help here as well. So the diagram's designed to help you answer the question. Let me just adjust something for a second, bear with me. Okay, continuing on. So question 11 now is the numeral 1000. What do the 3 zeros symbolize? So again, it's a matching question. So you're getting familiar with this style of questioning. So first 0, select the appropriate answer. Second, so on and so forth. Yeah, Shannan means circle there. So what does a third Shannan circle, yeah, what does it mean? So select the appropriate answer. Yeah, or match the answer to the to what these different zeros mean. So another free form question. So a typed answer required. Excuse me. And the question simply is, does the number 1 truly exist? So if your answer is yes, then explain why. Yeah, short answer, not long essay. If no, explain why. Yeah, so don't jump these questions, yeah, because they're free form and not easier multiple choice questions. Try to express yourself, and so you're going to benefit more from it, and then we'll go through the answers together. So there's no biggie if what you express is not right, but have a think of what the answer could be. You understand? Next question. What is the perfect high number of the Supreme Mother Being? So what is the perfect high number of the Supreme Mother Being? So one of the aspects of us as Sabians is that we're numerologists. Now numbers, that means basically that numbers have symbolic meanings. Obviously they're not absolute because somebody else may have a different interpretation of what that number means in their culture. So it's relevant to what it means in our culture and relevant to what we've taught you over the past 5 or so classes, and it's relevant to what we're talking about here. So best guess if you have no clue of what's being asked of you in this regard. Yeah. Next question, slightly different, but linked. The numerical expression of M other is. So what is the numerical expression of M other? And you've got some options there to select a single choice from those answers. Yeah? And in the previous question also, one answer is correct. Yeah. Okay, moving on then. So 15, what does damumiti mean? Yeah, so the Sabaic word damumiti, what does it mean? Yeah, so out of the options there, damumiti, what does it mean? Again, best guess if you don't know the answer. So here we see a symbol, set of Safafat, or Safaf, excuse me, for a single one, because they're connected together. So what does this symbol mean? That is the question, and you've got some options here. So simply select the correct one. Again, another Safafat interpretation question. So what does this symbol mean? So you're asking which of the 99 plus 1 deities is this symbol representative of? Yeah. Which one? So you've got some options there. Select the correct one. The Sabaic word Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, translate to the English words for. So basically, what's the translation of Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn? Yeah, and so you've got some options here. So again, single choice will be the correct answer. And then 19, the Safaf hieroglyph of an owl represents the equivalent of what letter in English? Yeah, and the answer is not OVO. Yeah, so I'll tell you that it's not OVO. So you got some options there. Which one? Yeah, represents the owl. Yeah. Next question is 20. Which one of the 99 plus 1 deities is represented by the following Safavat? So hieroglyphics in English would be, so which deity do these symbols represent? So 21, what Safaf does this symbol represent? Yeah, so what Safaf does this symbol represent? Again, from the answers below. Best guess, say if you don't understand what it is. Now, what part of the female anatomy does this Safaf or hieroglyph represent, and in what state? Yes, you've got some answers here to think about. So again, select the one which you think is most appropriate or your best guess. Again, what part of the female anatomy does this Safaf or hieroglyph represent, and in what state? Yeah, maybe we could have just removed the what state bit, but what basically part of the female anatomy does it represent? Yeah, this symbol represent. Got some options there to choose from. Again, nice little more Safaf questions. Excuse me. So what does the following Safaf or hieroglyph represent? Got some options there. And then in the next question, yes, we've got it inverted. It's asking you to note that, hey, this symbol, same one in the previous question, is the inverse. So what does that represent? Yeah, so you see there, it's inverse, isn't it? Yeah, so what does that represent? Next question, which one of the 99 plus 1 deities is represented by the following Safafat, yeah, or hieroglyphics? And then, what are the smallest particles of matter? Select all the answers that apply. Yeah, so what are the smallest particles of matter? Ignore these arrows, they're not relevant to the symbol, but these are designed to help you get the answer. Okay. So, all the ones that apply. The last question, the signs of absolute matter and absolute vacuum coincide or become congruent with each other. Complete the sentence. Yeah, so what is the effect of that? Yeah, so what is the effect of that coming together? So select the appropriate answer. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you, it is now 14:42 by my clock and wherever you are in the world, so it's 42 past the hour. So I'm going to give you until 5 to 3, 5 to 3 to complete the quiz. I said probably a bit long, but yeah, 5 to 3 to complete the quiz. And then we'll come back and then we'll go through the answers together. So yeah, do your best, to say best guess, and try and complete the free form questions as well. Yeah, try and complete those. Don't just ignore them. Have a little bit of a think of what it might be. Even if you don't know the answer, your best guess. Okay, so I'm jumping on mute for a minute. So as I say, we are in quiz mode at the moment. Okay, so a few of you participated, not enough, I would say, but a few of you participated, or didn't get to the end, I should say. So, so this is going to be a regular feature of the answers. But let's see now. Let me see where the option is to show the correct answers for you all. Yes. Okay, right. Okay, so question number 1. In fact, to help people out, let me go to show on the screen as well. So if you did answer those questions, then for your own personal feedback, it will show you whether your answers were correct. The questions which are free form, I'll give an answer and you can see whether yours matches up to that answer. So we were looking or explored, certainly in part 1, where's the native origin of the flowers on the planet? And so, excuse me, the blue would be native to Africa, or Egypt specifically. The yellow would be North America, and then the white would be India. Now the white, it appears in other places around the planet. For the purpose of answering this question, you would have been correct to select India. Understood? So the matching question, your options were India, Egypt, and North America. Blue, Lotus, Africa. White, Lotus, India, and then yellow is North America. So, so next, so what do the 3 bowls symbolize here on the top of this Safafat? So the correct answer there is space, matter, and time. Yeah, so existence. So the 3 things needed within existence, they are inseparable from each other, is space, matter, and time. Sorry about the explaining of existence there. But yeah, space, matter, and time is the correct answer there. So well done to those who got that one correct. And well done to those who got the first one correct. Next question then. So we're looking at the hieroglyphics here, or Safaf, or Safafat, plural. And so we're interested here in the 2 reeds. You need to identify the 2 reeds in the first instance. So we can see that the 2 reeds are here. Yeah. If you're looking on the screen. So those are the 2 reeds. And they basically, the correct answer there will be ya. So it's a, we say in English Y, but it's a ya sound phonetically. So we've got Pa here, Palel for stool. This symbol here means Nabab, master, or there, which is saying Lord, really. Nabab, so you get the N sound here on Nabab. There's a Pa, Nabab, Ya here. These bowls here are the Nu bowls, so you're getting that Nu sound there, or they're known as Nu or Nun bowls. So Nu bowls here, you get a Nu sound. And then here, naturally occurring water, horizontal, that gives you the N sound. So Pa, Nabab, Ya, Nun. Yeah. Master, obviously, of heaven. This is the Patat symbol here. And this is the symbol for the Sirius star constellation. And then you've got the symbol for earth here at the bottom. Yeah, so master of heaven and earth as that hieroglyphic symbol here. And you see it in the language here, Pa, Nabab, Yaanuwn. Understood? Okay, so well done to the person who got that one correct. So next one then is next question then is in the scroll Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, the message of Yaanuwn. What does our newfound understanding of the Safafat or hieroglyphics, good spelling there, show? So you need to select 3 out of the following answers. So the one that you needed to exclude is symbols are part of our culture. So the answer is our connection to our African ancestors. Our ancestors are here and near. Our ancestors heard the cries of their descendants who are willing, I should say, to do what was asked of them. Yeah, and so symbols are part of our culture, but that's not the answer in correlation to this. So the top 3, if you answered that correctly, then your answer is correct. Right, next one. Here, so this was a free form answer. And so the picture below shows 2 separate images of the Tahat or Tet symbol shown in yellow that symbolize a humanoid body. Which of the 2 images is female and why? So we can see here the 2 Tet symbols or Tahat symbols, and one has this symbol here in the middle, and then this one doesn't. Understood? So this symbol here, this one will be the female because this symbol here denotes the placenta, yeah, or khalas. Yeah, so this is the symbol or safaf for the khalas or placenta. So if denoting between the 2, then this one would be the female because males don't have a placenta. Understood? Okay. So next one, so well done if anybody got that one correct. So here, again, you have to type the answer in for the missing word, Lotus of Lights. Each vagina is a secret Zahar, blank, a most beautiful work of nature's work of art. Yes, so the answer there is flower. Yeah, so remember Lotus of Life, they've shown you. So each vagina is a secret flower. Yeah, so as the male or whoever, you need to unlock that code. So each one of them's different, and understanding the 9 parts of it, and obviously with feedback from your partner or your mate is how you then unlock that code, so to speak, in order to ensure that the woman experiences an orgasm. You understand? So ignorance of that means, ignorance and partly ignorance and part of the monotheistic religions suppressing female pleasure. Yeah, so you get sort of heinous acts like female genital mutilation as a form of circumcision, which is not a practice that should be indulged in, but it was basically designed so that women wouldn't feel any pleasure, so the cutting off or removal of the clitoris. And so this is obviously anti a woman's spiritual development because experiencing orgasms is part of her ascension characteristics. So there's a code to be unlocked for different women, and different women obviously have a different type of vagina. You need to understand those subtleties. So flower is the missing answer to that word. Missing answer word to for the answer. Next then. So you need to match basically the different symbols with the answers that were available. So basically the stem there was the umbilical cord, the lotus or rhizome, which is kind of like the head on the flower, is the female, or for the answers to this list, we can say woman, lotus flower, and then the loaf there is the mother, or fetus. You understand? For the answer. So if you match those to that, then that will be the correct answer there for that symbol. Okay, next one then is in Wu-Sabat, the sperm cell is also known as the blank of blank. So the answer should be star of life. Yes, it's also known as star of life. Yeah, so would have been the correct answer to that question. So let's see. I think if I got the star of life. I won't go through all that. Now, so question number 9. Excuse me. So various answers there. So T, obviously, naturally testes. Yes. U would be the phallus. So we replace that. There. So U is phallus symbol. Yeah, or the penis. V is vulva. Yeah, it stands for vulva. We replace that to be too easy for you all. So that's lotus of life. Yeah, lotus of life. Vulva. Was part of lotus of life. W, yes, that was a bit too easy. So we put in there Tatatwi. Tatatwi, obviously, twi is jewel. So tatat is where they get the word breast from, or the tat symbol is that semicircle you see there, tat symbol. So where they get the word tits from, you understand, as a slang for breasts, comes from the word tat. So tatatwi there would be the answer there for breasts. X, what would X be? Yeah, female chromosome. Y would be what? Male chromosome. And then Z would be Zoe, you understand? Or Zera for seed. Yeah, so Zoe means life. So the correct answer there would have been life for that one. So the 7 letters of the alphabet, symbolic of different aspects of the sexual process. Here, what does a compass and square truly symbolize? That was probably the most difficult question probably for people to answer, potentially. So we can see here the compass and the square. So circle and the square there. So really the answer for that question is male over female sexual process, or depending on, it could be male over female, it could be female over male, depending on how the tools are positioned. Understood? So the sexual process of male and female coming together is obviously going to produce children or generations, which make up obviously children. So the sexual process is what it's talking about here. Now, obviously, because this is in English, there is a G in the center. G standing for genitalia, genes, generations, etc. It's also the 7th letter of the alphabet. And actually, when you look at that G, remember, let me just draw it on the screen here. Let's just put my pad on for a second, bear with me. So if we were to draw it, isn't it? Yep. In fact, let's use some shapes. Oops, like that. So we put a circle up and then we drop in a square. Yeah, and then if I use my bad drawing, and look at that, the capital G, you can see there that is a circle, isn't it? Yeah, a square. Yeah, so our G is for genitalia. Now, obviously, if it was a different culture, then it would be you could put a different letter in the center. So if that was Sabatic, for example, you think about it, we'd put in other letters in there. We put an M in there. M for Minwa'at, genes, Manan, understand? For semen, do you understand? So you'd have different words different letters, in the center, depending on the language. Yeah, so because it's English, they've got a G in there, which the G is still tying back into circle and square. Yeah, male and female sexual interaction. Understood? Yeah, understood. So, is it a bad negative symbol? Well, to us, no. Yeah, it's not. It's a negative symbol to us. Yeah, it's telling our story, if we really understand it, as the master builders. Yeah, the original master builders are from Africa. Yes, from ancient Egypt. As we said, people have taken and repurposed our symbols and used them for their own purposes. But the mind that sits behind it, you understand, obviously for us, oftentimes is positive. And you have to be careful because a lot of these movies, they play a lot of games with symbols, and the way they're framed and the way they're depicted, it can give a negative connotation to a symbol which for us is positive. So if you think about, I was watching a movie the other day, the Harry Potter movies, which you went through, I think, well, I didn't go through the movie. We explained to somebody, a question that was asked, that Harry Potter is, again, is Hara Raye Pata. Yeah, Harry is Harry, yeah, Hara Raye. You understand? Pata, yeah, the name of it is tied into our deities. They play a lot of games with the language. But the symbol that is on his forehead, which they say he was cursed with, understood, is what? It's an N, isn't it? Yeah, which ties into our culture, yeah, in terms of the symbol of Nupu. Yeah, ties into Nupu, or that N symbol. You turn it on its side, we get this corresponding, isn't it? Zupu. Yeah, Nupu, life, understood? Yes. Zupu is obviously chaos or decay. You understand? So they have different symbols, or we say 9 ether versus 6 ether. Understood? Or order versus chaos. Do you understand? So that symbol, the way it was depicted in the movie, he was cursed. That symbol, that's one of our symbols, isn't it? How we would use it. N is the first symbol for 9, isn't it? On the letter 9. Yeah. So N, or that symbol there, is one of our symbols. So they take a lot of things, they repurpose them, and so you can get confused because of the way they use the symbols. Remember, in Millennium Part 1, it says, and it gives the name of all these various different secret orders, and they say they're the eclipse of the Sun of Righteousness. So they're trying to block that outformational energy in the sun, or that black light, from reaching us, understood, to aid our transformation. Understood? So symbolism is important, and what the white man is telling you, or the Mukasu is telling you, stay away from, you need to kind of do a double take and respect it. Look at it again, and we can see for what it really is, not the hype, understood, that surrounds the issue. Understood. Okay. Any questions before I wrap this out?
I am just scanning now. And there is no questions. Somebody might post one, because that's what usually happens.
Okay.
And there's no further questions. That's it.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, so next question 11 was the numeral 1000. What do the 3 zeros symbolize? Yeah, what do the 3 zeros symbolize? And again, we just switched it up a little bit, just so it wasn't easy for you to get this answer. As your answer is space, matter, and time. But the word space in Sabaic is for Sa, so that would have been the first 0. Yeah, the second answer would have been material. Yeah, so we just mixed it up for you again there. And the second answer we put in Sabaic again, Wakut. So the third is time. Yeah, so space, matter, and time are what those 3 zeros symbolize. So this was a free-form answer again. And so you were asked basically, does the number 1 truly exist? And If yes, explain. If no, explain. So basically the answer within our doctrine at least would be no. The number one does not exist. And the reason for that is that the one is really expressing whole as an answer. And so it's percentages. So as we explained previously, the alchemists are the ones who created the number system. So in our really poor education, the way we was taught, there was no explanation given for how one becomes two or how two becomes three, so on and so forth. Had we had learned the periodic table before we learned how to count, then we would understand elements in transition, in a sense, so energy coming from a state of nothingness into a state of somethingness, and then transitioning into different forms, the hydrogen transforming into helium, so on and so forth, all the way down to the 99th element, we would understand how one becomes two. So in order to get one complete, when you get to 99% of one, you have to take 1% of the next thing, so 1% of two, in order to complete one. Yeah, so it's so you need part of the other thing in order to make that thing whole. And so this is why you're seeing here in the percentage sign, it shows that distinction in the symbolism. Yes, that actually that must take a piece of that in order for it to complete itself. Understood? And so we showed you, let's just see here. I think we can go back. Remember, we showed you how those numbers, in its ancient form, yes, were in actuality in the Arabic numerals, they were, by the Moors, yes, they were angles. Yeah, so you counted angles. One here, you can see count 2 angles, 3 angles here, in terms of these numerals. So that's how you arose at why those numbers in this form look how they're supposed to look. Somebody just draws you a 2 without this knowledge, you wouldn't even know. So no, this number 1, there's no such thing of it. And you can see in the language where the trick knowledge comes in, because 1 in English is W-O-N, not O-N-E. Now, if I switch my screen for a second, to show you something else, to see how these games are played. So hopefully you can see on the screen here, we've got Blue Letter Bible. So if I go to Genesis 41, so Genesis, just so you can see here, 41, 45. For example, where it talks about the priest of On, Genesis 41, 45, so it's on the screen here. Yes, it talks about the priest of On. Yeah, here. So if I click on it now, and I want to go deeper into the language. So when I look at the word On, yeah, it says, and the Pharaoh, Joseph's name was Zaphnath Paneah, and he gave him Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, or Potipharah, priest of On. Yeah, and Joseph went out of over the land of Egypt. Now, so the priest of On here, when we click on it into the etymology, Strong's Concordance number 204, we can see here that they say On means strength or vigor. Yeah, and they also say it was a city in Lower Egypt bordering the land of Goshen, center of sun worship, residence of Potipharah, priest of On and father-in-law of Joseph. So here you see in the transliteration, we get the word On as a sound. In the pronunciation, what do you see here? You see on-e or on-a. But here you see it's the English spelling 1. Yeah, in the pronunciation, you see it here with your own eyes. It is an English word 1. Now, when you start going down and looking deeper into the meaning, of what they're expressing, they know that it doesn't mean vigor and strength. Understood? Because when you start to read now and see, okay, on Genesis 41:50 and Genesis 41:45 and 46:20, and we just work through, it says what? In the Coptic book, it constantly being called on, and it can hardly be doubted that in ancient language, this signified light, especially the sun. Yes? Now, so they know it means the sun, you understand, or the city of the sun. So here we see called, so the word called by the Hebrews from a translation name, Beth Shemesh, for those who can read that. Jeremiah 43:13 by the Greeks, Heliopolis, by the Arabs, the fountain of the sun. Now, just so you can see here, if we go Jeremiah 13:13, Jeremiah 43:13. Jeremiah 43:13. Right, Jeremiah 43:13. You can see here, this word here, Beth Shemesh. Yeah, so you can see it's actually a composite of two words here. Beth, house, Shemesh means sun. Yes, so this Beth Shemesh, as you can see it here, of course, there we can see, look, house of the sun or sun temple. So they know that this word on means sun temple, but when it's translated, yes, we saw back, it translates to strength or vigor. Understood? So you can see that the games are played here within, as I say, the language there. Yeah? So you're seeing one, which you're saying in English, you are really saying sun. Yeah, you're saying sun or city of the sun. So the first numeral or number, yes, is the sun. Yeah, so the sun or the birth of the sun, hydrogen transforming into helium, you understand? In fact, it's a process of all of the first 9 elements. Then when you get to 10, for example, neon is birthing a new light source. Understood? Yes. So this is the starting point is the sun, which is what that one symbolizes. The starting, or the whole, or that circle as the sun. That starting point is why you see the word one there, which they know ties back to the sun, the source of life for us all, and for this solar system. Why it's called a solar system is the sun, or one, Oni. Understood? Yeah, which is on, you say on is sun, and then E, obviously, when you think about it from an elemental point of view, is energy, isn't it? So solar energy, but it starts with the sun, city of the sun, understood, which is what a solar system effectively is, the city of the sun, So with all the planets, etc., being offshoots from the sun. So again, a bit of a long-winded way of looking at it, but you can see the way the games are played and how you can effectively use what the master teacher is saying when you start going in and seeking confirmation. Yes, you can look at that now and see, well, okay, this is what what he's saying is really factual and saying. Now, even here, you can see another one of our words here, own. On the screen there, you see the word own there, and again linked to what one here. Now, own we know is the vibrational, the vibration, of the original or the Big Bang, which there were many of them. That original vibration, as you hear in the background, that Om sound. You see there again in the Hebrew is tying into the word one, which is to say we've been tricked in the way in which we pronounce it. But as I say, and it ties into even in the Sumerian doctrine, that same word on is the word Anu. Now, Anu, which was Sumerian most high, again tying back into the sun, the highest thing in the sky that we can see at least. So so you can see how that ties in. So answer is no, one doesn't exist. It's dealing with percentages, and you need 1%. When you get to 99% of one, you need 1% of two in order to complete the whole. So 13, what was the... Let me switch back. So in question 13, what is the perfect high number of the Supreme Mother Being? Well, that perfect number would be 1,000. You understand? And so that is the context of that. And so remember, as we was expressing to you previously, the perfect number is 1,000, other, the perfect number. And it actually, symbolically, all of the races in terms of their mental capacity then would be in the context of 1,000. So the Negaru, 999 out of 1,000. The Dravidian, you understand? At night, 666 out of 1,000. And they're dealing with mental capacity. And then the Caucasoid, 333 out of 1,000. You understand? So that context really is in the mother, which what the 1,000 represents, or 99 plus 1. But here, for this question, 1,000 would be the correct answer. So well done to those who got that correct. So the next answer there, which is what is the numerical expression of M other? Numerical expression of M other. So again, the correct answer is 99 plus 1. So numerical expression there. So that combination obviously gives the 1,000, but we've got the M, remember, there, which remember in Roman numerals, they change it, isn't it? It means, they don't change it, but they give it the numerical meaning of 1,000, understood, millennium. So give it the meaning of 1,000. We know that, remember, that the word M, when you say it, M, it is EM, correct? M, which in the Sabatic language, it means of. So we should describe and say the other is an offshoot, isn't it, from the original, offspring, in the same off of the original. So the M, is the EM, means of, yes. And actually, when we showed you previously, we look at the Arabic and the Hebrew words for mother, they are derivatives of M. So M, and is the same thing. So they're just changing the vowels to be different. But all of that ties back into your Sabatic language, our ancient Egyptian culture, to this same symbol, which ties into this number 1,000, as the perfect number of the Natharu. Remember, the Natharu's favorite shape is the circle as well. One of their favorite shapes is the circle. Which, as I say, because we're dealing with things growing out from a central point, for example, which we expressed the last time, you have a whirling effect that creates that circle, isn't it? So, and we see this in the trick knowledge in the language, because you see the word whirl. So that whirling effect, or this spinning out, creates the circle, the whirl. Understand? But listen now. If I add that to it, you get world. Yes? If we add that to it, can you see? We get world. So it all ties back in. Do you understand? Obviously to the planet. You understand? And which is, you can see it's circular. You see that the sun is also circular. Understood? So in that regard. So the games that get played, these obviously won't happen when you start going into your Sadaic language, because you don't necessarily get double meanings of words, because people were intelligent enough to create another sound or unique sounds for different words. And if there are similar sounds or similar things, there's a reason for why it's been expressed like that. Understood? It's not for the purpose of hiding things necessarily in that, or fooling the mind. As you can see, something simple here, which is why, as I say, you've got a master teacher that's coming along and pointing out these nuances, so that your third eye is being forced to be open again with actual facts. Understood? Okay. So, any questions while I rub this out?
One moment. There is no questions on that one. Let me just check the other side. Nothing in the chat. No, there's no questions.
Okay, tells that. So the 99 plus 1 as well in that expression is also described as Damumiti. Yeah, so that means unity. So Damumiti means unity, and that's the expression of 99 plus 1. The M other in the sand, those two in union in the sand, or perfect union, understood, would be unity in that regard. As the M other, so you've got source and then an offshoot or offspring of the source. Yeah, mother's giving birth to something. So by natural reasoning, sound right reasoning, yeah, male couldn't have been first because the lesser cannot give birth to the greater. You understand? If I got 15 pounds in my pocket, I cannot lend you 20 pounds. I can only lend you from a combination of £1 as a whole up to 15 pounds. I can't lend you more than that. You understand? Because I don't have it. So the lesser cannot give birth to the greater. It defies logic as well as the natural rules of things. Understood? Yes? So belief, though, will have you accept that the lesser can give birth to the greater. Facts cannot. Understood? So the new spirituality for us in this day and time is factual information, not belief. So, again, solid. I think most people got this one correct. So what is the Safaf? What does this symbol mean? And this is Nathara, overseers. You see 3 9s here. Yeah, linked to these, which is 3 flags, really. That's what they are, 3 flags. But 3 9s you see in England, as we said, where they repurpose our symbols and make them negative. In an emergency, in a stressful situation, you dial 999 for assistance for the police, for ambulance services, or for fire services. In England, in America, they dial 911. In England, you see spells deep, yeah, 999. So drawing on the help from, you know, they never said where they got the influence from, but you can see where directly that comes from. That's our help. You understand? That we should be calling upon and don't through our ignorance, but then associated with something arguably in a stressed situation, because you're not going to dial 999 if the situation is not an emergency. Yeah. So, but they also have linked it to assistance and help. You understand? So obviously, a black person calling in for the police can be compromised, isn't it, in terms of what you can expect to get, because when they arrive there, you don't know if they're going to see you as you've called them for help, but through perception they may see you as the person who's causing the problem and not the one that needs assistance. Yeah. So all games that get played, which is why master teachers constantly tell you give them back their stuff, because you can see why they compromise things, and so it compromises the purity of your relationship with it. But these symbols, you know what it means now. so you know the positivity that's connected with it that relates to yourself. So next one then. So what deity does this represent? Yes. So basically the answer there, and this is a symbol as well for mitochondrial DNA. So you can see there the spitting forth. This is a symbol for water, understood? So you can see that symbol there. So this is Tefaf Natat, who they also call Tef Nut. Yeah, so you can see this horn-tailed viper is the Sabaic word afaf. It means from, yeah, or excuse me, of or from, yeah, meaning to say like as in born of or related to. You understand? Here we see what these same symbols here, the tat symbol, yeah, or tet symbol there, tat symbol, and then obviously we've got this what will be described as a kind of cobra, a cobra symbol there, yeah, as well. So you can see here that I say this is symbolry for mitochondrial DNA. You understand? So Tef, you understand? Yeah, it's Tef, and you see in here Natat. Tafaf, yeah, Natat. You see, because this is the Afaf symbol. Ta, yeah, Tafaf, Natat. You understand? And because that's a spitting forth, you see in the cobra there. You understand? So her name means moisture. So this way, again, you see that even though you got the N sound there, yeah, Natat, you're getting that Natat sound. It also means moisture, isn't it? Water is one of the mediums required to carry life, and that spitting forth is because clearly you part the lineage or line age is passed on through the female, isn't it? She spits forth or passes on the mitochondrial DNA to the daughter, so she carries the line of the family or our race. Yeah, is in the lineage is held by the female, not the male. Remember, male, they pass forth one generation and not further to that, whereas the female is multi-generational. Do you understand? So this is why there's a constant attempt to poison off the genes, yeah, or the royal lineage or lineage. So Sabaic word Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn translate to the English word for what? So that there, I think nobody got that. So no one person got that correct. That is the owl. Yeah. So remember the symbol Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn or M. Yes, was the owl symbol. It was stood. So again, you see it repurposed in many different interesting ways in the hip hop world. It ties back into M. Yeah, which is the word for mother, Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn. And obviously, they're owls, they're nocturnal creatures, women associated with the darkness. What's associated with the darkness? Well, that's that space, isn't it? Existence, which accompanies matter and time. You understand? So nothingness, what it represents, yeah, things that don't have a weight. And as some things come out of no things, or the world of no things. So we were not ignorant of the darkness because that is the world of things or no things, which having knowledge of the cause and effect, we can see into that world. Yeah, Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn has opened our eyes with that knowledge, you understand, enable us to see in the darkness, you understand, and not associate everything with the light. True knowledge is in the darkness. I mean, cut open your head where all your intellect, intelligence comes from. It's going to be dark inside. It's not a light bulb in there. Do you understand? Which is a misnomer or that the Mukasu created, because remember, in the 1600s, they read by candlelight. Understood? So fire, which is what the light they're talking about, not electrical light, incandescent or fluorescent lighting, fire became associated with knowledge because they read by candlelight. So, but fire is, or that light is associated with chaos. You understand? A consuming fire in that regard. Understood? And so hence you get the terms enlightened. But light finds its place in darkness, or its context in darkness. Again, associated with the woman, those 3 zeros also relate to the triple darkness, isn't it? The 3 trimesters within the womb, which takes place in the darkness. So in terms of us being the owl, yes, with our third eye open, mind's eye, we can now see into the darkness. Yes, because we're interested in where this world of light came from, and the things within it that we can see obviously is set within darkness. 90% of that darkness, dark matter accounts for 24% of that darkness, and then dark energy accounts for 76% of that darkness. Only 10% is the universe that we can see. So primarily it is a dark world, and the owl symbolizes as a nocturnal creature being able to see in the darkness. So I think we kind of answered this one in a way. So what letter in the English language does the owl represent? Well, the correct answer there is M. Yeah, M, but you can see it's got an EM sound, isn't it? Yeah, but it's M. Yes. So next one then, what Safaf does this represent? Well, again, from the letters here, so instead of a double read, we've got a single read, which is the ah sound, yeah, hard A in Sabaic, understood? And then we've got this, they call it a sonat, so it's like a board game, yeah, sonat, but this is M, the sound of M or MN, yeah? So we get the ah, M, and then here we've got this, yeah, naturally occurring water. This is a N sound, or what they say N in English. So A, M, N, Amun, yeah, Amun, the hidden one, yeah? So this sonat game here would represent MN in that regard. So this is Amun, yeah? So how you see it spelled there. So that's really a hard A, yeah? Hard A, like the back of your throat, yeah? So Amun, the hidden one, yeah, which is what it means. Now, so next one here, what does this Safaf represent? So again, you see, we were showing this before. If you think about the Tet symbol, yes, which is an opposite one, and it's full, isn't it? Yeah. So the Tet, they're symbolizing a kind of pregnant female in the saying, or we said a fetus, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, pregnant female. You see. So if you invert it now, this would represent then, in this context, it is the symbol for Nabab. Yeah, another symbol for Nabab, and it denotes empty space. Yeah, empty space here in this cross hatching. Yeah, empty space. Here, so what does this represent? Well, we just gave the answer there. So you see it inverted there, or the right way up, and then it's inverted in the Nabab symbol there with the hashing. But here we see it on same similar symbol, I suppose, shape, inverted. And this is basically the female stomach that is pregnant. Should be the right answer. Yep, that's correct. So yeah, female stomach that is pregnant. Yeah, so again, Tat symbol. You saw it on the actual Lotus symbol as well, isn't it? As a loaf. So where that term in England, I don't know if it's something that's universal or in America or whatever, but the bun in the oven is where that term is really coming from. Yeah. So this loaf of bread is being baked in the oven. And you think about the Lord's Prayer, Matthew chapter 6, verse 9, our Father art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Yeah. On earth as it is in heaven. And then they're saying, give us this day our daily bread. Yes. So the interesting thing about it now, when you understand the food for the gods doctrine, you understand, yeah? Then you see that the bread, yeah, which obviously in slang is associated with money, you have to question now, well, what are they asking for in the Lord's Prayer? Give us this day our daily bread, our quota of food. Yeah. Revelations what? Chapter 19. Yeah, let's tap that one in into the let's tap that one in. Just bear with me. Doing this live. Let's see what we got here. New share to switch up. So yeah, let's type in Revelations. Let's go. We've got 19. Let's go to chapter 19. 17 will yield for us. Right, it says, and I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls in the midst of heaven, excuse me, come and gather yourselves unto the supper of the great God, that ye may eat flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. Yes, you have to rethink now what that daily bread they're asking for means. Yeah, supplying food for the gods. Yeah, who had a taste for human flesh. But taking it back, as I say, to ancient Egypt and to our culture, yeah, it's obviously tied into the mother. And actually, if you look at the same symbol, yeah, from above, yeah. So in fact, we draw it so you're clear what I'm talking about. Just bear with me. Yeah, so if we draw again, we use the screen again and we draw. So if you look to that symbol, let's say, yes, from above, let's put a circle there. Yeah, and then we just dropped the dot in the center, you understand, which looks like a breast, isn't it? Yeah, correct? Tat, member symbol, saying earlier that the word tat, where they get their slang tits from for the female breasts. Yes, we can see here that on the side profile, we can see, yes, it's also the expanded stomach of a pregnant woman, but then, which is a source, isn't it? Yes, of life. But then we've also got another source is in the female breasts, which is a source of food. Yeah, for the emergent child, once child's born. And this is also the symbol of the sun, another source of life. Understood? Yeah, and actually ties into yourself as well as a universe. Yeah, that their favorite shape, because the person as a universe, everything is equidistant to you, isn't it? You are the center of the universe. It's all about you to you. So everything is equidistant from you. You are that center point. So even in the divine design, the mathematics, the way in which the female is structured, the body is structured, you see it all correlates. Yeah, so you have to understand our systems as we get into our mindset, hence doing these quizzes. So you're getting into starting to think back in the mindset your ancestors again, or at least seeking to trigger that. You understand? Yeah, you're getting back into the mindset of ancestors again. So fear, yeah, of participation or fear of involving yourself is a barrier to your progress, isn't it? Because it's false education appearing real. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't know. I don't this. Yeah, so we have to get back into the real mindset of children, more fearless to aid our spirituality and just participate. Yeah. Any questions?
No questions there. No questions.
Okay, Tautak Manthu. So 23, what part of female anatomy does this Safaf represent? Well, what do we see here? We saw a similar symbol that represented the pregnant female, and we saw a similar symbol here that represented empty space. Understood? So this symbol here, the correct answer there is the placenta. Yeah, the placenta. So if we go back and we look at that when we showed the Tahat symbol, which was the image of the pygmy, remember the gold symbol there? Yeah, we go back. Yeah, remember the gold symbol we saw on one of the answers? Yes. The placenta was in there, so obviously this would be associated with the female. Yeah, the Kalas symbol, which is also known as placenta. Yeah, so you can start to see now our ancestors. There's meaning behind these symbols, which is why they never taught you them in school or never given any inclination. So that is showing you, as I say, that people are say from council estates, you know what I mean, projects, whatever, are now breaking these symbols down. Well, that's a sign of us reconnecting with the Natharu once again as their children in the Sanda Muntharu. Okay, so next one then. So what does this represent? So in letter terms, if we were making a set off for the phonetic terms, this will give us a U sound, sound, or they say W. So remember, W is also U as well, sound. So this symbol here would represent ether. Yeah, so ether in this regard. In fact, you're not watching, I'm watching it. Let me switch that back again. So previously what I was explaining, rabbiting on, but you were just looking at a different screen, was the fact that, as I say, that Tet symbol there, the placenta, remember, yes, that is shown on the female there. I think we explained that earlier, and not on this symbol here. So that's how you know that's female. And then we're looking at, as I say, the fact that you've got these combinations, the shapes at least, should give you some thinking. You combine them together, and there's obviously a different form with the horizontal lines here, but it's giving you a form that this, as I say, ties into that placenta. Yeah, so you're getting space and matter being brought together, isn't it? Yeah, so you need space and the matter being brought together, and obviously within the darkness of the placenta, which is in the darkness, time is allowing, or by way of the time, we've got growth. Yeah, a 9-month period in the main before the child is born. So here, this symbol here, this way around, represents ether. Yeah, sound there, and then you see it there inverted. Yeah, so it's in the other way, other direction, and that represents hair. Yeah, so ether, yeah, and then hair, yeah, in that regard. Yes, understood. So 9 ether is also can be used as a classification for hair texture. Yeah, so our system for denoting genetic strength within the hair texture, 7 ether, 8 ether, 7, 6 ether is fur, you understand? But this represents hair in its inverted sense. So again, The different ways in which the shape is shown changes its meaning. As we showed you with the N, you turn it 90 degrees to the right, and then it makes that Z. Yeah, so you're locking off those energies where before it was open. So what deity does this represent? Okay, so difficult to see here, but that actually is hashed. It's not solid, directly solid. It's hashed. So we can see that is the palel, yeah, the stool, P sound, or yeah, P sound. We've got a T symbol as a Tet symbol there again. So Pa, Ta, and then so what's this? So this is the Ha symbol, yeah, which is basically Habal. So it's a symbol for rope. They sound like a flax, also flax as well, but symbol for rope. So interesting, telling that statement, hold on to the rope. Yeah, you can see within the, and then they say, well, there's no deity, no savior in the sand, but no deity but Ta or Pata. Then understood. You see, and they're telling you to hold on to the rope. You're seeing, hey, the rope is in the symbol of the name of Ptah, which, as I say, the Caucasian took it and misnomered it and said, changes to Peter. You see? Peter. P-E-T-E-R is Ptah. And in their Jesus story, one of the disciples' names is what? Peter. So they know what they're doing with the tricknology, understood? But you need somebody from outside, yes, the master teacher, the Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn from outside, bring with that outformation, come from outside of the status quo, so to speak, to be able to see, yeah, as an ontologist, how all of these things unfolded. Yeah, so when we say he's a copier, the imitator, you can see why. It's not designed to be derogatory. No one wins a race in racism. It's not designed to be derogatory. It's just showing you, hey, this is how it goes. You didn't have any mind of your own. Your mind is based upon what you saw other races who came before you do. Yeah, and now we've been tricked and fooled by the phonetics of the English language. Yeah, spell is not only witches and wizardcraft spells, but it's how things are spelt, which is causing confusion in our minds, yeah, which Wu-Sabat is designed to unravel. So, smallest particles of matter. You had to answer all of the answers which apply to that are appropriate to this question. Just bear with me. Yeah, so all the answers which are appropriate to this question, and the correct answer is all of these apply. So Nakatat is dots, yes. So smallest particles in existence are black dots, yeah, but they can be classified as energy matter or matter energy because they are matter, but they are energy in the state of nothingness, which basically is things that don't have an atomic weight. Understood, that then will be classified as something. They're still material, understood, but they are energy. Yeah, so in one demarcation, hydrogen is something, so one could say, well, matter starts from there, according to a certain group of people's perception. And then before you get to matter, you're dealing with energy, understood, which is then pre-hydrogen, we're dealing with quantum physics. So you're dealing with the physical world, and then you're dealing with the world of quantum physics, or matter, and then antimatter. Hence why I was explaining to you how those numbers represent, isn't it? 01 is antimatter, 10 is dealing with matter. In the sound of physical versus the spiritual, some say, but you know, that word can sometimes be problematic. But yeah, it's physical versus the spiritual, or the etheric, maybe a better way to describe it. So 10, You understand? And then antimatter is 0, 1. Understood? So when we get up to 9, you understand? We count. It goes 0, 1, 0, 2, so on and so forth. When we get to 10, there's a flip that's taken place, isn't it? You're in a new dimension, isn't it? So if you look at that 1 representing the sun, where the sun now birthed on this side of matters, where it can be seen and perceived, has then given birth to the physical world, so to speak, or our solar system in that context, having been birthed out of nothingness. You understand? So the smallest particles on the other side of matter are all of these. Yeah. So brainy-frick seeds. You understand? So, and we went through some time, obviously explained that in previous parts. Obviously, you can in-house or what's the word? Absorb these brainy-frick seeds, and it starts a process, obviously, of formulation of things into some things. Understood? By nature's rules. And this is the power of the Nagaru as supreme being, having or being a part of the world of things. We are a thing, subject to the world of things. So pre-matter, obviously, as supreme beings. That world of nothingness is where our true and real origin comes from. Now, we're getting a little bit heavy with the last question. So the science of absolute matter and absolute vacuum coincide or become congruent with each other. So this is from one of the Master Secrets, the black dot. And the correct answer here is there is a magical effect. So when these things coincide with each other, then magical things happen. Do you understand? Or in terms of growth. And what we always explain to you is that this system, from the very origin of nothingness, obviously passes down, isn't it, and replicates itself, and is shown in other systems. So if you think about it, in the male and female relationship that we were looking at with the science of the circular square and showing you with the compass and the square, isn't it? That is something male coming together with no thing female, that space, isn't it? Yeah, the vacuum, the female, it's a half flower, you understand? Yeah, the vaginal canal, and then the phallus, understood? Yeah, being externally now made with the man, yeah, as I say, a form of artificial insemination. When they come together, understood, one of the things that's important, isn't it, as we touched upon in previous classes, is the rhythm. It's not just a case of inserting it. It's not a plug. You just put the socket in and plug it in. Yeah, so I suppose that can work in one sense. But when the rhythm is right in that union, isn't it? Yes? What potentially can happen? Well, when that rhythm's right, certain sounds are being made, understood. Can the man last long enough, before the big bang happens, understood? And the two kind of work together to get that rhythm right. Magical things happen, isn't it? We see orgasms taking place, you understand? And maybe in a perfect union, both orgasms simultaneously, because the rhythm's right. You understand? Which is matter and space, or this vacuum that we're talking about here. So this is it. It's absolute very origin of things, but you can see in various different systems these same patterns replicate themselves. As well, when you're studying, you're paying attention to these things, in a bit more detail, and so you can see how things correlate. You understand? As it relates to you and your culture. So Wu-Sabat, remember, is seeking to what? Inform you. You don't learn Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat learns you. So it's going to inform. Going to inform you. Yeah. So remember, Wu-Sabat is a science of turning information into outformation, but also outformation, obviously, into information. So you are being informed. Your informational present being is being informed by your outformational ancestors. Yeah. in the form of Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, understood, which is connected, yes, to your ancestors, isn't it? As that cupped or central point, which we see here, yeah. Let's just put that and draw that up. Interesting enough. Yeah, which looks like that that central point, isn't it? So you've got many going through the one to communicate back out to the many again. Understood? Yeah, the hourglass symbol. Yeah, man of the hour. Hour, Hara or Ha, Horus. Who is Horus? Horus was given, or Hara was given, the secret word from Isis or Aset, or Arashtat. Understood? Yeah, so in our culture, you can see, if we look at these, we can see all those symbols in, isn't it? See the N, you can see the Z for Zupu, everything you can see in there. Yeah, Zupu, boom. You can see that symbol in there, and you can see the N in there. Yeah, that Amun Nabab Rayakta. So our ancestors communicating through the cup to the center, and then communicating back out to the many. That's why I say the 19th elder then comes and occupies the 25th seat, which is on earth. Yeah, and then reestablishes what? Heaven on earth. Meaning to say we're establishing those same outformational systems here within the environment, the informational environment on the planet, to stay aligned and attuned with our ancestors. Understood? Yeah? Okay, so that's the end of the quiz. For those who participated, hopefully you found it useful. So we'll continue to do those just to aid people's understanding, so you become part of the process even more in an interactive sense, rather than just listen to me speak and you taking in the information. You understand? So you need to start to think in the language, because if you don't and you can't articulate it, then it's kind of pointless. Do you understand? Because each one teach one means that if I teach you or we teach you, then you should be able to teach others. In order to do that, you need to understand what's been spoken about. And if you don't understand it, then we're not doing our job properly. You understand? So one of the ways to do that is to test ourselves with different types of questions. So that's what we're doing here. Yeah. So next time, if you didn't or wasn't able to engage this time, then next time, just try it. You understand? Just free up yourself and just participate. Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
Right. No questions there. None on chat. No, we've got no questions.
Okay, so let's conclude up a bit. I'm not going to go through these because of time. Yeah, let's just look at this one for a second then. So you can see here that the forces of Zupu, yeah, decay, destruction, as opposed to the force of Nupu, you understand? Yeah. So just so you can see that you were being taught, or are being taught, are being taught the Safaf in different books. This one happens to be, I'm sorry, I didn't put the source, which I usually do on the screen, Natural Ether Energy, I think this book is from, these pictures are from. And what you're seeing here is precisely what we're talking about, that this informational connection is there. This word, this hieroglyph is the word Zabas, yeah, and it means lock, as you can see there, or bolt. So those forces, as we expressed earlier, remember, they're blocking out that black light, yeah, from reaching us, which left us in that dead state, yeah, as the word Negro, remember, ties into necro, yeah, it means dead or death, understood? And so our mind was dead. Yeah, we were mentally dead. This is why you see here, yeah, we see the rope there, yeah, Habal, you understand, which also the H symbol, but ties also to the helix, you see there. This here, the forearm, so hand and arm, is the Fanad symbol. Yeah, and then we've got Zabas. Yeah, so Zaha, yeah, is what this describes in terms of the sound of it. But you can see, yes, that in that dead state or the mummy state, what is locked off. So in the mummy state, what is locked off? So we're preserving the genes and the genetics, but remember the brain turns to liquid after, you understand, a period of time, so it can't be sustained. So remember, in the opening the mouth ceremony, that was basically sending the person's soul, yeah, which is what connects them to the mind or mental, back to the star constellation or back to Orion or Sirius, depending on where it came from. And then obviously once in future times, when they're able to reclone that body, when they're able to cure whatever disease that the person died from, then when they restore the body, they have to then re-house or put the soul back in. So that's the connection back to connect the brain, yeah, with the mind back to the mental again. And then house the person's body with the soul. So the point is that you can see that the lock is locking that off. So that's why we wasn't thinking in our own mind, because we wasn't connected to our proper mind, as we showed earlier, where we were trapped in person, places, and things. And we had access to the fourth point again, being opened up by the teachings of Wu-Sabat, by the sacrifices of Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, the master teacher, and why they wanted to keep him away from his people. Hence the COINTELPRO situation, which has destroyed almost all black organizations since Marcus Garvey's time. That's when it was formulated by the demon J. Edgar Hoover. Understood? So it was formulated in that time to stop us from coming together. You understand? Obviously, it didn't work insofar as a sense of people still have the back to Africa mindset that Garvey instilled or left with us as a race, even though himself, he didn't set foot on the motherland. But he done his job in instilling that back to Africa mindset and the fact that we need to have our own, all of them, Elijah Muhammad saying, do for self mentality, isn't it? Do for self. Master teacher comes along as the last point, understood, at the end of the cycle, now to break down the symbolism and give you the actual facts. And no more symbolism now. You need to know exactly what's going on in it to prepare ourselves for the new cycle, isn't it? The next 24,000 year cycle. Either we're going to rule or we are going to be subjugated. If we don't get back into our right mind, come together in love and unity and start to build again, yeah, and transform. Understood? Leaving a pathway again to create star children. They're not men and women, star children, supreme beings again, which is what we are, Nwet Mukwan, yeah, supreme beings. So the locking off in the symbol you see in Zupu, yeah, the counter to Nupu. Understood? Yeah, the counter to Nupu in that regard. So, and the fact that, as I say, in that dead state, the mummy's locked off. And interestingly, look, Zazatat and Zazaz as the word for man and woman, we see that the lock is present. So, man is one step above beast. Man is not supreme. As men, or man and woman, we have to re-engage the mind again. We have to remove the lock, isn't it? Or turn the lock so it's in an open state once again, where we're receiving outformation and 9 ether energies. Our mind is back again. We're in that 9 mind again. So not in 3 mind, not in 6 mind, but we're in 9 mind again. We're fully connected, but also know how to protect the connection from adverse influences. Yes, hence why you see in our doctrine, in ultimate reality, yeah, that verse we like to always quote in this one. So you can see there, the counter symbol, is it Nupu with the new bowl? Yeah, Nupu. Yeah. 9 ether, positive, alive, living. You see the lock off there. We showed that all that Zupu. Yeah, with the lock. Death versus life. And then verse 77 of ultimate reality, which says inspiration and revelations are attributes and results that accompany reasoning, yet must always be checked out completely and thoroughly to confirm them being hakata like a cat. Actual facts. So us being in our right mind again, just because you receive inspiration, revelations, or insight, which is really outside, because you receive it from outside in. Sometimes it can be insight if it's coming from inside out. But you're receiving it, but you got to check it first against, is it factual? Is it actual facts? And so the person sent to us wrote over 1,000 books, so you're able to confirm, align these beliefs, because we're still, when the lock is open, remember, through reflection and projection, there are a number of forces out there, seen and unseen, that can influence that thinking. You understand? Remember, you were taught in the Right Knowledge series that 6 ether is in the atmosphere, something that we breathe in. And that you just think, well, what does that mean? That sounds crazy. But then you have to ask yourself, when they do those experiments, remember when they're showing children certain pictures or images, different races of children, certain images or of as it pertains to race, and they give them as maybe a lineup, and they point out, well, who is the evil one, who is the bad guy, or who is this or whatever, and the children start pointing to the darker images. Well, hold on a minute, the children haven't, you understand, how have they been influenced with that? How have they been influenced to choose the darker skin, or associate the darker skin with the negativity, the darker skin with the evil? Because it's in the atmosphere. Some is in the atmosphere. There's television, there's other things, but it's in the atmosphere. We're breathing in these adverse forces. Understood? Remember, this is why the master teacher explained why certainly in the West, in cities, they love to build residential properties near cemeteries. This was never our way. Either bodies are burned, or a person's buried way into the desert, or they're entombed. And it's air sealed, airtight. So no air can get out. You think about all these death and decay and what the disease that people died of, they're being released into the atmosphere. You breathe it in, it can affect that bacteria. Adverse bacteria can affect the person's mind, affecting people's mind. Sending people crazy, but not in the right way. You understand? So this is all part of the emanation and propagation and maintenance of 6 ether. So we also have to make sure that we are guarded in how we're checking our thoughts. You have to do the work. You have to seek confirmation. So it's here, confirmed, not beliefs or conjectures, fictions, fables, myths, legends, as religions put forth in the Bible and Quran. Fiction stories, even creatures of fiction, must be confirmed by sound right reasoning for what? Authenticity, is it real? And reasonability, does it make sense? That is to see that they are indeed true and make sense. Truth is truth, Musbatu Sabians. So yes, we read with an open mind, but also as the lock is open now, or forcibly getting opened to help our transformation, our ascension journey, but one must read with a controlled mind, because those 9 steps, remember, those 9 steps, so questions is the first aspect, isn't it? But then those 9 steps, proof, confirmation, and then what the thing is will then be revealed. Quest, journey, questions. Understood? So this is who we are. The aspect of who we are. Okay. So when we go back now, and we're looking at these symbols, and say Nupu there, you see it there. Nwapu, is seeing it's all interconnected and how we record all this stuff on the walls of ancient Tamaray. And yeah, it's given us insight, as I say, into the very secrets of the universe, but how we also must be guarded in the physical sense, yeah, to keep that which we know, which is sacred, also locked down. You understand? In this state. Not running up our mouth every minute. You understand? We need to know how to keep secrets or choose and be careful of what we secrete and to whom we secrete it to. If we are to get back into the natural state of overseeing the environment. You understand? Being caring for the environment once again. You understand? So, it's time to cover this, I think. Okay, I think I've fried your mind enough today. I think we're on 4:30. Yeah, okay, so we'll continue next week. We're next Sunday again with the Lotus of Life. And into that, I'm going to cover some of the rules around the 24,000 years and tie into that as some of the introduction to get into the Lotus of Life revisited class. Yeah, so yeah, hopefully that was useful for everybody. Any questions before we go? There must be a few questions.
There's no questions. I'm just checked.
Okay, no problem then. Yeah, I think a refresher, get you thinking a bit into those symbols, and then we can start, as I say, to look at the mother once again, but in the context now of we're getting into the kind of class that maybe precedes Mother of Existence into the Lotus of Life, which we've touched upon, we've intertwined them really, but we're going to get more into the thinking of a woman and why certain things are set up the way they are and why we are, and you understand a bit more why we're matriarchal. And as I say, a little bit around the world of darkness, you understand, and why even she represents that as Pa'ut, not Pa'ut, but Pa'ut, and saying within Pa'ut. Understood? Yeah, so the all in all. Yeah, all in all. So there's great mystery and understanding of this doctrine to be unlocked when one studies the female, even as males, and women obviously studying themselves as females, but there's a lot of mystery being unlocked in there. Even if you remember the breakdown, if you look at that old book, Ancient Egypt and the Pharaohs, when you read the breakdown of Arashta, who they call Isis, yeah, the whole breakdown there on the Sirius star constellation and mystery. And at the end of it, it tells you, hey, there's many things still to be unlocked about that particular star constellation. You understand? And so, you know, we'll step into that and go into that a little piece. Yeah, and maybe, at least symbolically, you know, and actually prove that there's life after death. Or life after life. You understand? Yeah? In that regard, yeah, so that we can be confident, or at least say confident, you won't know until you get there, but you can at least invest in your preparation. And why would you invest? Because you've got a better understanding of what is to come next based on our ancestors who were in tune with the Natharu, who were preparing them, for that undertaking. Understood, yeah. So if there's no other questions, as I say, maybe we've fried your mind enough for today. So next week, same time, same time for this month, say slightly change schedule. Next Sunday, 1 o'clock, 1:15 start, and we'll get into the Lotus of Life. But we'll start off getting straight in with the rules, some of the rules around the 24,000 year cycle, and why, as I say, we need to kind of understand them in our ascension journey and why we make certain choices, why you have to come back again, etc., etc., and get into, as I say, a bit of understanding, time as in a form of now. Yeah, so now as multiple thens, then of the past, then of the future, and then now as it relates to the female also. Okay. Thank you everybody for attending today and participating. Really useful session today. And please, if you're able to, let people know and join us next week as we continue opening up our minds and learning more about ourselves as supreme beings. You understand? All respect due to Ba'h B'ah Yaanuwn, the master teacher. Absolutely amazing the fact that, as I say, we are gaining understanding and breaking down these symbols and realigning with our ancestors once again, which is enabling us to come together in love and unity. So all take care and give care also, and we will see you next week. Okay, take care all. Stay safe.